in that comfy area is on...
I decree today that life is simply taking and not giving. England is mine, and it owes me a living. But ask me why, and I'll spit in your eye. Oh, ask me why, and I'll spit in your eye. Look, we cannot cling to the old dreams anymore. No, we cannot cling to those dreams. Does the body rule the mind, or does the mind rule the body? I don't know. Under the iron bridge we kissed, and although I ended up with sore lips, it just wasn't like the old days anymore. No, it wasn't like those days of my spirit. Does the body rule the mind, or does the mind rule the body? I don't know.
Well, welcome to another Studio One, and that, of course, is the very wonderful Smiths, taken from an old Tube session. And we have Morrissey in the studio with us, which is great. Morrissey, thanks for coming.
It's nice to be here.
Now, it's been an incredible success story for the Smiths, especially over the last year. I mean, just from becoming a cult band, you're now huge. You're topping every poll there is, practically, in all the music press. Are you astonished by it or delighted?
I think delighted, because we expected it. We had very strong ideals and very high hopes, and we couldn't really consider failure, which a lot of people think is arrogance, but it's not. We were just very sure of what we wanted to do. And I think when you're really sure of what you want to do, you can do it.
Why do you think people do accuse you of arrogance? Because I know the music press have got a really rather funny tack towards you.
Yes, they do. I think I mean, this again sounds arrogant, but I think they probably feel that I'm somewhat too clever to do what I do, because, which sounds like absolute arrogance, but I don't think many journalists are really used to people who are making records having a very clear statements and very clear vision of where they want to go. It's very unusual, and when it happens, it makes people uneasy.
Because the old theory of most rock journalists being failed musicians is another one, isn't it?
It's absolutely true. I find it's absolutely true.
Because a lot of your lyrics are, as they say as well, very clever. Do you think they're just annoyed that they didn't write them?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. It makes me sad because it's true, and it makes me sad because I think there's so many people involved in music who really don't consider it to be an art form, and they get quite shocked when something serious comes along, and I think that's really sad.
Now, your songs are very serious, and the lyrics are all to do with pain. At least that's the way it seems to me. Did you have a very painful youth?
Yes, I think I did, and yes, I most certainly did. And it becomes difficult to talk about it because people think it's your total standpoint, and you're trapped in your adolescence, and here I am plunging towards 26, yet I'm still talking about those times. I'm not really encased in that period, but it was painful. I mean, it was very troublesome, and I can't really forget it.
Are you a pessimist, though, or an optimist?
I think I'm an optimist because I'm here and I'm doing this. I think if I was a total pessimist, I would never have bothered. I would have just, you know, stayed in bed and didn't bother to do anything. So I think I'm an optimist.
You're getting quite a big chance now, because you've got such an enormous amount of people who worship the Smiths, to make very, very good points, especially with the Meat Is Murder album. Now, do you have some sense of responsibility from that point, because people really are listening to what you're saying?
Yes, I think so, but it's good to have that sense of responsibility. I want it. I mean, if the Smiths were simply just another pop group, there'd be no point, really, because anybody can do that. It's easy. So it's really quite important to have a particularly precious platform, and for people to see you in a particular way. There are problems. We still find it quite difficult to get daytime national airplay because of that reason. But mostly it's quite gratifying.
Why did the Mita's murder thing come about? I mean, I realise you're a vegetarian, have been for some years, but why do you feel the necessity to get on a soapbox lyrically?
Well, because this is something which has never been covered, and never been covered certainly in music, or at any rate successfully. And it's something that gets no national attention whatsoever. Everybody's politically aware, there are benefit concerts, there are benefit records, etc. But this is something that people never ever talk about, and I felt that since there were so many people who felt strongly about it, that it really should have its place in music.
Right, well, let's have a look at it. This is Mita's Murder.
Everyone could be human crime. Closer comes the screaming night. This beautiful creature must die. This beautiful creature must die. A death for no reason, and death for no reason is murder. And the flesh you so fancifully fry is not succulent, tasty or kind. It's death for no reason, and death for no reason is murder. And the carp that you carve with a smile, it is murder. And the turkey you festively slice, it is murder.
Well, that's the Smiths track Mita's Murder, obviously, which put some rather disturbing images over. Now, I know vegetarianism is thought to be a good thing, but isn't it mankind being a little vain to think that we're not part of the food chain? Do you see what I mean? Every animal has to kill to live, even if it's just plants.
Animals do, human beings don't. It's unnecessary. People survive without meat. It's just really ignorance, I think, and certain... people eat meat, I think, for negative reasons.
What do you think those reasons are?
They just really can't be bothered to think about animal cruelty, or they can't be bothered to think of another diet. I mean, it's too much trouble for people to really sit down and think, well, if I didn't eat this, what could I possibly eat? People just, you know, food is just this ritual. Breakfast, it's toast. Dinner, it's meat and whatever. So it's just really, people have to be made aware of the situation, really. Most people don't know any details about vegetarianism or animal slaughter.
It's always been associated with a young person's thing, vegetarianism anyway, hasn't it? And back in the 60s as well.
Yes.
You're obviously still just appealing to young people, but how do you think you're going to get this over to the older generation?
Well, if the message can be really cemented within the younger generation, I think that's enough. Everything else should hopefully just come in time. But I think it's wishful thinking to try and do too much at once. So I know from the letters I receive hundreds of letters every single day from people who've said, we heard this record and now we're vegetarian. So it's a success.
Right, for the moment, Morris, thanks very much. I'll come back to you in part two, but first of all, we're going to see a recorded track. This is White China. Well, that was a big country, just like a shadow, and with no connection whatsoever, I'm glad to say. Morrissey is still here in the studio. Morrissey, the other thing you had a reputation for a while back was criticising every other band in the music business. I mean, you haven't done that for a while. Have you
They
lost
haven't really
the
given me the
impetus?
chance for a long time. I think I've been blacklisted. Yes, I did that for a long time. I thought it was necessary.
Why
I
do you...
think well, everybody was, you know, slowly going to sleep towards the end of 1983, and I felt that they had to be woken up somehow. So.
Is it as bad now, do you think? I mean, does it still depress you, things that are happening?
I think it's changed, but it's still quite glum, really. The Old Boy Network is as strong as ever, and I think that's boring.
What do you mean, the Old Boy Network
Well,
in the music business?
I think we have our clump of people who will always be on television and who manipulate airwaves, etc.
Like who?
Well, I could name names, but it's proved in the past not to be very practical for me. I tend to meet people in corridors and studios, etc., and they're always taller than me. So.
Do you think things are going to change any? Because everyone's waiting for this enormous big sensation that's going to happen again, like the way punk did and everything. That hasn't yet, has it?
I don't know. I think it's difficult. I think doors are still firmly closed, and I think I know that because the Smiths found it difficult in several areas. I felt that people were just unwilling to have changed. And for instance, the Jesus and Mary Chain single never had one national daily airtime play, so that proves something.
Why do you think they're particularly anarchic? Do you think Jesus and Mary Chain are doing anything new?
Well, whether they did or not, they never really had the chance to get their fair share of exposure. And I feel when people say no to new groups, they're really saying yes to Black Lace and the way things always have been.
Is that because perhaps they're a little frightened of new things?
Well, I think everybody's comfortable in what they do, and why should it really be changed? And of course, that's a very stale situation.
Right, well, let's have another snatch of the Smiths, and we'll see things that aren't old-fashioned, and this is really good stuff.
Unruly boys who will not grow up must be taken in hand. Unruly girls who will not settle down, they must be taken in hand. A crack on the head is what you get for not asking. And a crack on the head is what you get for asking. Unruly boys who will not grow up must be taken in hand. Unruly girls who will not settle down, they must be taken in hand. A crack on the head is what you get for not asking. And a crack on the head is what you get for asking.
Well, clearly the Smiths really are at the height of their success now. How far are you going to take them?
It's difficult. I mean, it gets to the stage where now we simply have to maintain things and prolong things, and that'll, I think, will be the test of our skill.
Aren't you really nervous the way that, I mean, a lot of bands who are mega bands now started off much the same way as you were, honest and trying to do something, and then it gets so big and you just become like the Police or something?
I don't think so. I think there's lots of groups who are very, very small, yet they have a mega group attitudes. So I think it doesn't really matter what status you're at. You either have the attitude or you don't. And we certainly don't have that attitude.
Money and success and people badgering you from all sides isn't going to change you, is it?
I would think not. We don't really have much money, and we've bypassed opportunities to make a great deal of money. So if we haven't weakened so far, I mean, we've done really well with the bare essentials that we've had, so I think nothing else has to be proven, really.
Right, well, if I can introduce you to Lynn Birkbeck, our resident astrologer, he's actually been charting out your future. Would you like to tell Morrissey what it holds for him?
Well, how I see Morrissey as an individual, he's like a flag bearer for future values which have yet to be developed. So he has to be a very unbending personality, very inflexible, so he isn't swayed from his course. About you were saying earlier on about him being accused of being arrogant, in a way he has to be, because he's putting across a point, and he's naked and exposed in doing so, because you're quite a shy person, aren't you?
Very.
Yeah. Very. But he has to put himself up front in the lights, you know. And people don't miss that point. They say, look, I'm arrogant, you know, which is like sour grapes, really. But it is so important what he, along with the Smiths, is putting across are these new values. And I think in the next couple of years, you are going to be tried. You are going to be forced to compromise, but you'll have to not compromise. At the same time, maintain the essence of your vision, if you like. You know, I think some of your convictions probably do need reevaluating and adjusting.
Oh,
is this accurate? Why?
I don't know. People tell me this every day. I'm not really sure what they mean. Perhaps we should, you know, get them together and ask them to elaborate. I don't know. I
think it's a very subtle thing. I think it's to do with when you sort of get on a hobby horse of changing this and that, right? One has to go into full throttle to prove your point. but there are certain bits that have to be adjusted. Nothing is simply black or white. And as a Gemini, you should know that. That you're going to have to adjust a little bit.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Was that giving you the the direction you're needing in life, then, Morrissey?
Yes, it has, and no, it hasn't.
Okay, thank you both very much indeed. Well, we're going to go out on White China tonight. Next week, Richard Jobson will be our guest, and we'll be having music from the Armoury Show. So here's White China.
Much like.